So I remember one time walking into a conference room for a deposition, and the opposing attorney goes, "Honey, could you get me some coffee?" So I went and got us coffee, and then I sat down, and he goes, "Oh, when's the attorney arriving?" I was like, "Oh, I'm the attorney," and his jaw hit the table, right?
Hey everyone, it's Jenn Foster here with Elite Expert Insider Podcast. We're really excited today to have April Roberts here with us. And she has actually been helping Gen X women thrive. And she was a high achieving attorney and financial advisor with degrees from Vanderbilt and Notre Dame. So, really excited to have her today. She also hosts the podcast Vixen Voice. And so you can find that on all podcasts as well. Welcome, April.
Hey, Jen. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this.
Perfect. Yeah. So today I coach and consult and mentor Gen X female entrepreneurs. And it's been a long journey. I've had multiple careers, but I'll kind of give you the short version. You mentioned I work with a lot of Gen Xers, and really our clients range from 35 to 65. But here's what we have in common. We grew up with a certain formula for success, right? Like you read my college degrees. I don't even talk about them anymore. It's crazy. I went to two of the best universities in the country because when I was going to college, you went to the best college you could, you got the best job you could. Like you made sure, you got paid well and you tried to work for a big company, which I checked all those boxes and, did what I was supposed to do. And then, life changes. And I'm so glad I feel the world has evolved out of that framework, right? In fact, now, I mean, I hate to say this, don't let your kids listen if you don't want them to hear this. But I mean, if I had kids, I don't know that I'd encourage them even to go to college, right? I mean, obviously, if they wanted to be a doctor or do something in the STEM fields, then you have to go learn. But, I'd be like, find somebody that does what you do, go get their coffee and learn everything they know.
Uh-huh.
And, this is the path that most of the most successful people I know have taken. In fact, most of them don't even have college degrees. And I just share that because I'm sure most of your listeners kind of followed the same formula I did. And I'm sure you did, right? And then suddenly we woke up and went, wait, there has to be something more to life than this. And so that's why I say I focus on Gen X women, but really it's any woman that's juggling a lot, wants to be an entrepreneur, and they're kind of in that moment of, okay, I've checked all these boxes. Like I have what success is supposed to look like, but I feel like there's something more, right?
Uh-huh.
And I feel that we start going deeper as people at a certain age because we've kind of checked all the boxes. So, you know, I was lucky at age 27 to have my eyes open that working at the big prestigious law firm was not what I wanted to do the rest of my life, even though I had a beautiful experience there. I was just like, I don't want to be the partner 40 something years old responding to my emails at 2 in the morning, which they would, right? And so, and I fell in love with an Italian. So I moved to Italy, we got
Oh,
married, all
wow.
this stuff. So I kind of got taken off course.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds like a
I
blast,
know.
though.
It was, except that we got there and I found out he had addiction issues.
Oh.
So it was kind of like a fairy tale and a nightmare at the same
Oh,
time.
no.
But I mean, this is the point. We've all had a life,
Yeah.
right? And so what we have to do is really learn who we are and what our purpose is and what drives us.
Yeah.
And that's when we get aligned with our life.
Yeah.
And that's what I help the women I work with do.
Right.
And so, yes, I'm a business coach and consultant, but I love when my clients come to me and say, "Hey, my marriage got better. Hey, I'm running my household better.
Yeah.
You know what? I have more time for me." Because that's really what I'm striving to
Yeah.
do to help them, yes, make more money and be abundant, but find joy and peace and love again. And so that came to me. Thank you. About 2017, I had a thriving financial practice, started in 2008. And I started getting these calls to do something different. I'm like, are you kidding me? I literally have hundreds of clients. I have a team. My parents had joined my business. Like, all these people depend on me. And, I just had this conversation on our podcast. Like, that can be a heavy weight on your shoulder, right? There's all these people depending on you.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, how in the world can I change my career or do something different? And so, but then the whisper came back and it came back again. And I call it the 2 by 4 moment. I think we've all had it by this point in life where we don't listen and then things go upside down,
Mhm.
right? And so I just said, you know what? I need to figure this out.
Yeah. I
But
love that because you get that inkling or you get that like nudge and you're just like, I know something needs to change, but it's really like focusing on yourself and figuring that out because a lot of times you get in that mode and you don't want to change. And I get that too. So yeah, I'm with you with the degrees and college and all of that as well. So I went to university and graduated with liberal arts and science degree because I changed my major so many
okay.
times that I was like, "What do I do with that degree?" And she's like, "Usually you focus on one thing and like go to more school." And I was just like, "No, I just want to be an entrepreneur." So, but I love that you talked about the internship or the, focusing on someone who, doing what you want to do and just following what they're
Mhm.
doing. I think kids these days,
Mhm.
whether they get a degree at university or not, that's what's really going to happen is you're going to find someone a mentor that you can follow. So I love that you're coaching people.
Yeah.
What does Vixen Gathering mean? And why did you choose Vixen for your company name or for your vision?
Well, we were doing the original branding. I actually had a gentleman named Jimmy Gibson helping me. So it's kind of funny because a man came up with the name, but I really loved it. He was really great at getting to know me and what I wanted to bring. And so if you look up the definition of a vixen, which is a female fox, you'll learn one, it's the only species where the female is more attractive than the male. So they actually attract the male. And then two, if you just read the other characteristics of a female fox, like it just was very compelling.
Mhm.
And gathering, of course, is a coming
Yeah.
together. I mean, again, my generation in particular, like we were often, when I joined my team, there was one female partner out of 40. And so it wasn't like we had female mentors,
Yeah.
right? We normally had male mentors. And that one female partner was extremely competitive. Like she wasn't there to help me.
Mhm.
And, I just really, we women are so powerful when we come together and collaborate
Yes.
instead of
Oh,
compete.
so
We
true.
are such an unstoppable force.
Yes.
And
I
so,
love that you
you
called it
know,
Vixen though, because that's what I named my car. So I was like, oh,
oh,
Vixen
yeah.
Energy, Vixen Gathering. This is awesome because I have a red Camaro and its name is Vixen. So she's a
I
great
love
car.
it. Well, yeah, and I also liked it because it's a little cheeky,
Yeah.
so I think we sometimes take ourselves too seriously, and we need to be reminded, like, 1, we're not fully in control, and 2, it's okay to have a little fun.
Yeah. Let's talk about the masculine and feminine energies. Because you mentioned, when you first
Yeah.
started working at the law firm, there's only one other female. And you almost have to
Mhm.
turn on that masculine energy so that you can compete with all the men, right? So talk about that a little bit.
So, let's talk about the law firm quickly, just
Okay.
nostalgia. Here's the funny part, right? It's a total masculine energy environment, but in 2001, when I started, we were expected to wear heels, to wear a skirt suit. We had to wear pantyhose if we had a skirt on, right? Like we had to dress like women, but perform in a man's world. So I literally remember running down the hall with boxes of documents in my 4-inch heels, right? And so, I just share that because I'm sure many of us women have had this experience. And luckily, I don't know, I was kind of blessed. I would probably say running a company and being in the financial world stole a little, like, pushed me a little more masculine than working in the law firm. Maybe, I don't know, because of where I grew up, but femininity was still celebrated. And so I remember one time walking into a conference room for a deposition and the opposing attorney, goes, honey, could you get me some coffee? So I went and got his coffee. And then I sat down and he goes, oh, when's the attorney arriving? I was like, oh, I'm the attorney. And his jaw hit the table, right?
Right.
Like, so I just never was the person to like hit them like that. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? So I think I still was in my feminine essence and I just kind of worked around it.
Yeah.
But then when you run a business and it's number based and you're managing people and everyone needs everything from you, you really do tend to go pretty masculine because that's our get stuff done energy, I like to call it. And so what you really want is a balance between masculine and feminine. But because the legal world, the financial world, most of corporate America, most of the Western world, like values very logical, linear thinking, like getting stuff done. It is, in general, a very masculine energy environment. And this is just my theory. I haven't found anything to back it up. But for example, in the financial industry, 11 years ago, 30% were women. Today, 30% are women. Now, there's no way that no new women are entering. That
Right.
tells me that women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are burning out and leaving the industry.
Hmm.
And so my theory is because they're forced to be in their masculine energy too much instead of having the balance, right? So I really want to celebrate the feminine energy because the world needs more feminine energy too. And, that's creativity, communication, collaboration. It's actually receiving and resting. And how many women just give and go, right? And then they wonder, why they're depressed or they're tired or they're not excited about life because the feminine energy is sometimes to sit back and receive and rest and just be.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just think when you can learn to balance it a little bit better, it brings the joy back to life and
Mhm.
you still succeed.
Yeah. And I love that you have the word gathering, because us women,
Mhm.
there is that competitive edge sometimes where some women are
Mhm.
trying to like one up you. And I've just never had
Yeah.
that. I mean, some women do and some don't, but I've never had that competitiveness. So, like,
Yeah.
I find that when I'm in a big group of women, there's always one or two who are trying to like one up or compete with the rest, but you just have to bring them down and
Yeah.
get on that vibe of, no, we're all here to collaborate. There's no competition. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny. I had this experience last year. I moved to Nashville from Houston and I was back in Houston around Christmas time. And so I reached out to a bunch of girlfriends and I was like, hey, let's get a happy hour. I was sitting in the middle of a table, Jen, and like to the left of me were all my friends I had made through the Vixen Gathering or clients or just, my co facilitator, my mastermind. To the right of me were like my friends from kind of my old life, I call it. There were 2 different conversations going on, like and it was literally like, "Oh, look at my new shoes. Oh, I got this promotion. Oh, this," like what you're talking
Yeah.
about, and to the left of me, it was like a very loving, open, vulnerable conversation, and it was just a moment for me that I was like, "Okay, we're doing important work. Let's keep doing
Yeah.
this." Right?
I love that. So let's talk about personal values. How can personal values help you make better decisions?
This is one of my favorite topics, and I don't get to talk about it often. So thanks for asking. So, everyone talks about their company core values, which I totally think is important to have, right? Because that defines your culture, that helps set the tone for your culture. But you want to know personally what fills your cup, especially if you're a business owner. Like if you're male or female, you are the foundation of your business if you are the business owner, right? And so your cup has to be full for your company to operate at its best and to be able to scale. And so when you know what makes you tick, you can do that a lot better. So I really work with my clients on honing down to 3 personal core values that are important to them. So mine are alignment, affection, and adventure. And so when I feel a little off, I'll do a check and I'll be like, am I up? Oh, yeah, I haven't had any adventure lately. What do I want to go do? Right? Like, I need to fill that cup so I can show up and be my best. Or, oh my gosh, I've been head down. Like, I haven't really had affection lately. So let me go have a loving conversation or let me go have like coffee with a friend, right? Like, whatever it is. But it also helps you make decisions because you can say, I actually ended a relationship because it seemed wonderful. Everyone thought like we were like the perfect couple. And then suddenly something came up and it kind of took my foundation out from under me. And I was like, let me check my core values. And I saw that it violated one of my core values. And I was like, I can't stay in this relationship because eventually I'm going to be unhappy, right? Like it seems great now, but it's not going to sustain. And then same thing when we're making decisions. Even like when I was like, okay, where am I going to live? Like I check my core values and I just say, okay, is this filling my core values or supporting them? Very much like you should do for goal setting and priorities at work. It's just like kind of another checklist. And so the better you know and define your core values for yourself, because words mean different things to each of us, right? The easier it is to kind of make those decisions.
Mhm. You talked about goals for a minute. So, I have this problem and maybe you can help me, but I think a lot of women have this is setting a goal, like a revenue goal, or getting to a certain level. And I know what we always choose a number that's probably way lower than we should choose, right? And why do you think we have like this difficulty of owning a high revenue goal and reaching it?
Well, I love this question. So every month I run an Own Your Worth challenge for female entrepreneurs. So I know I shared the link with you. So if you have this challenge, join us. We usually have like about 30 to 40 women so that we can all participate. It's really great. But a lot of times it's a self worth issue. And we've also been socialized to be that way. There's a discomfort with money that hasn't been dealt with. So part of it is dealing with our trauma and our history of money. And part of it is realizing attaching a purpose to the revenue number because we women are very purpose driven. Like, okay, when I make seven figures, here's what I can do with that money. Here's how my life changes. Here's how my family's life changes. Here's how I can give back. And so when as women we attach meaning to the number, then it allows us to embrace that number more. But yes, I will tell you, Jen, you're not alone. 8 out of 10 women I work with either do not have a revenue goal set or when we go to set it, they have difficulty. Like
Mhm,
this is what I do every quarter with my clients. We do a goal setting exercise to make sure we're locked in with our 3 year, 1 year, and quarterly goals.
mhm.
And so I think creating that safe space to have the open conversation really helps.
Yeah. I do like the way that you talked about having a purpose. I remember back when I first
Hmm.
started, I was a single mom I was getting into the business. I had a bunch of clients, but not enough that were paying me the right amount. And I had a goal to take my kids on a Disney cruise, and
Oh,
that is not cheap. So
no.
pretty expensive. So I remember like figuring it out, calling them and getting like the numbers of how much it was going to be, and then setting the goals. And it took me a minute to get it all like set out, but then it finally came into fruition and we got it booked and I made the payments and it all worked out really well and it was a really fun cruise. So I love that you say like
Yeah.
put a purpose to it because whether it's a goal like a trip or a purpose, like you have a purpose to maybe do a trip like a humanities trip or, mission
Mhm.
trip or something like that to help others.
Well, I love it. And actually, we just recorded yesterday a panel on pricing. I had
Mhm.
3 female entrepreneurs on, and we were talking about this topic, like how to price. And you mentioned clients not paying me what they should. So when we start to understand that money is just an exchange of energy, it changes in our
Mhm.
mind, right? And so here's the deal. If you're underpricing your services, you're actually doing a disservice to your client because in their head, it's only worth that much money, right? So
Yeah.
that's how much energy you're going to get from them. So
Mhm.
when you charge the appropriate price, then they're going to put in that amount of energy. So I really think, I mean, I think I just had an episode come out where I was like, yeah, you're not, are you running a business or a charity? It's totally cool. You can
Right.
have a charity or a hobby, but define, is it a business or is it a charity? Right.
Yeah.
And then it comes into like boundary setting, skill set of having difficult conversations, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, these are skill sets. And so just understand that nothing's wrong if it feels uncomfortable. You just have to flex that muscle more.
Yeah.
Just like anything you do, you get better and better.
Yeah, I like that. And I do notice too, like the confidence, like it stays and gets higher and higher. So just last night,
Yeah.
I was telling someone about our publishing services and she was asking the pricing. And so I was telling her and her eyes got really big. And I think she realized it was more than she thought it was going to be. So I explained to her all the bells and whistles and the things that we actually put
Right.
in our packages and how we get you to bestseller and include all of our marketing that we do. And then she was realizing like, "Oh, this is actually like if I was to do a book, it would be like a business. It wouldn't just be I'm writing a book and throwing it up on Amazon." So it was
Yeah.
really eye-opening for me to be like, "Hey, I like own my confidence here," So because it is easy to cave when someone's questioning you.
Yeah, no, I love that. And any way you can practice price framing is really important. So, like in my financial practice, we had a 2 or 3 meeting process before someone came on board as a client. And so first meeting or, I'd give dinner seminars, I had a TV show, like they never, I never disclosed our fees. And if they asked, I said, hey, well, I'll let you know in our second meeting because I'm a fiduciary. So it's according to what we're doing. And that was also on purpose. So they had the first meeting experience with us and the second to see how we were different. Because look, I was not more expensive than my competition, but I was transparent about my fees and the competition was not transparent, right?
Right.
So I could not have actually served these clients if I had told them the fees up front because they were comparing it to a non truth on the other side. So I
Right.
had to do a little bit of framing and education
Mhm.
before I disclose the fee. And it's the
Mhm.
same thing, even with like coaching or consulting, like you really have to put into context. And if you could put the context before giving the price, that becomes a lot more comfortable and you're serving your client better.
Yeah, I like that. The framing of it, I think that's really good. Well, tell us, why did you
Mhm.
decide to start supporting Gen X women?
It's interesting because at first when I started getting the visions, I didn't understand that. And then in 2020, I got the third vision and I was like, okay. And literally it was April 2020. I'm running a financial planning company, right? With a team, like with hundreds of clients. We're remote. And I just looked up and I go, really? Right now? You want me to do this right now? Okay, I need to figure it out. Which is why I became such an expert at time management, by the way. I coach my clients a lot in time, energy, and confidence leveraging. So I was like, okay, let me figure this out. And I did something I wasn't good at until that point. I asked for help. And I think a lot of
Mhm.
us women struggle with that, right? But
Yeah.
I kind of knew my timeline was short and I had to figure it out. And I didn't have a lot of time to figure it out, right? So I was just like, hey, I keep getting this vision of me speaking on stages. Like, there are no stages. It's 2020. Can you connect me with someone I can talk to? Just to like different mentors and people I knew. And the interesting thing, Jen, was I mean, I believe in God. I know we all have different beliefs, but I think most of us believe in something larger than ourselves, and things just happen sometimes. And so everyone I got connected with on this journey was another female entrepreneur. And so I had these fantastic conversations, and I realized how 2020 had kind of pulled the rug out from under people that they were making the most of it, especially women. They were really redefining what their life looked like. And I was like, I mean, if you're familiar with the Colby, I'm a 9 quick start. My whole life, I've lived different places. I thrive on change. Most women don't. And I was like, well, I can use my gifts and help them deal with the change. And so that's kind of how I ended up at first. I didn't plan to only work with women, and then I did that. And then it just became such a blessing because my clients are like my best friends as well. We have
Yeah.
boundaries like,
Mhm.
hey, we're on friend time. I'm not coaching you right now. Like, then we'll be coaching. But it turned out to be this beautiful gift that I really didn't intend. It just turned out that way.
I like that. Let's dive in for one last question on some time management, since you talked
Mhm.
about how you help others. Because I think as women, especially whether you're a parent or not a parent, whether you're a business owner or not a
Yeah.
business owner, you juggle a lot of things and a lot of hats.
Mhm.
So I'm also a real estate investor. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to put on my real estate
Wow.
investor hat, or I've got to put on my publisher hat, or I've got to put on my mom hat, or my sister hat, or my daughter hat. Like there's so many hats we have to wear and juggle different things in life. So what is your number one tip for time management and also address what a lot of people ask, if there is a life balance, because a lot of people think, well, there's not like a balance. And so tell us your thoughts about balancing my
Okay, so I'm gonna write a note so I don't forget that one because
Okay.
that one's
Yeah,
important.
I know.
For time management, I love that you mentioned the different hats. Each
Yeah.
hat you wear should have a color that represents it on your calendar, period, right? And sometimes you subdivide. So, for example, Vixen Gathering, our main color is like this deep teal. If you see my wall, it's that color. But I have subcolors of that color on my calendar. There's one for team meetings, there's one for client meetings, there's one for events, which is like this or me giving a webinar, because each of these different things takes different energy from me. So I want to be able to glance at my calendar and say, wow, I need a lot of energy this week. I better go to bed early Sunday night, or I better work in my exercise, or I better make sure my meals are planned for the week, right? So you want to be able to hack your calendar where you can glance at it and kind of know what kind of week it is, right?
Yeah.
And one color you should definitely have, this is my number one tip, is a color for pure joy. So mine is bright pink. And I will look on the calendar and I'll be like, there's no pink on this week. And remember, like adventure, like I like to enjoy my life. So when I'm too busy and I'm not enjoying life, I'm not showing up my best. So I'll be like,
Mhm.
okay, where am I going to put some pink on the calendar this week? Right.
Mhm.
So that is part of my calendar review on Friday or Saturday when I'm looking forward to the next week. And so I really think when you can own that and everything goes on your calendar. So we hate this kind of like we hate being put on a budget or going on a diet. But at the end of the day, structure gives you freedom.
Mhm.
So, what I don't have to do is think like 10 o'clock came up on my calendar and I'm like, okay, supposed to be on with Jen. Let's go.
Yeah.
Here I have my notes. I block 10 minutes before to make sure I'm prepped. And then I'm not scrambling.
Yeah.
So I have freedom. I can breathe. I know what I'm supposed to be doing when. And I know I have this hat on right now, so I'm not thinking about all the other hats. So I know you asked for one tip. That's first. But second tip is the more you can combine those hats into blocks, the better, because each of them takes a different energy. So if you're putting this hat on, taking it off, putting the next one on, putting the next one on every 30 minutes or an hour, that's when at the end of the day, you feel like a puddle of nothing,
Yeah.
right? We've all been there. So
Mhm.
if you can like flow into one hat for a couple of hours, half a day, a full day, then you're going to preserve your energy and feel great at the end of the day. As far as balance, here's the best tip I've ever gotten. I actually got this from David Bach. I don't know if you know him, but he
Uh-huh.
has like, I think 10 best-selling books, and he wrote the famous book about women retiring. And he said, there is no balance. What I do is we were at a conference and like he was actually coming in the room to hear me speak. And he said, what I'm doing is totally focused on coming and hearing your speech right now and being grateful for the help you've given me. Next week, when I'm skiing with my sons in Breckenridge, I'm totally there skiing with my sons, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not worried about what happened at this conference, what's happening the next week. And I just thought that was great advice. And that's why I think
Mhm.
structure to your calendar is so important because it allows you to be zoned in and present. Like, you don't want to be at the dinner table with your family checking emails, right? Like, half your energy is there, half your energy is with your family. So,
Mhm.
one, it's great tip for your energy. Two, you show up as a whole different person and you really fill the cup of everyone around you plus your own.
Yeah.
So, that's my take on balance, just being present in what you're doing at the moment.
I like that. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for all the wonderful tips you've given us today. If you want to further the conversation and you want to own your worth, tell us, April, where they can go to join you.
I love it. So our website is Vixen Gathering. It's Vixen. And on the top, we always have a link to join our next Own Your Worth challenge. I think we have the link here as well. And on social, you can follow us at Vixen Gathering. And you can, on YouTube, you'll find all our podcast episodes as well. It's the Vixen Voice.
Awesome. We'll put those notes in we'll put the links in the show notes. There we go. So people can click
Thank
directly on
you.
the link and get there. And that's great. Thank you for being here. This has been the Elite Expert Insider podcast. If you want to write and publish your book, you can find us at eliteonlinepublishing.com and we can help you get your book published. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.